podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Ed, how much of United versus Liverpool did you catch?
All of it.
What did you make of Casey Stoney's new?
Great result in the end for United's women. Their first game having been reformed, first competitive game having been reformed. It was. I'm being nice when I say it was a low quality game. It wasn't great stuff, but United actually created some good chances. I think on the balance of play, although Liverpool definitely looked the more polished side, it should be, being in a division higher. United deserved to win, and joyous celebrations as a team. Casey Stoney team scored and on full time, and it meant a lot. I think you could see actually when. United scored the goal. It meant a lot to everyone in the team. It was a great start.
It's history, isn't it? It's a history-making thing. And as well as it being Liverpool versus United, there's a load of extra needle because basically Casey Stoney stole half Liverpool's team in the summer and brought them to Manchester. So there's a lot of beef and needle in there. But we should, I guess, talk about the thing that we've been talking about for the last 9 years. 9 years we've been doing this show, Ed.
We probably should. Shall we talk about United under 23's fixture?
What happened? I didn't see any of that. I don't know what
coming
happened.
Coming up in a couple of weeks' time against Southampton under 23's. Big one. No. Beat Aston Villa 3-1 in the week.
Great.
Which was a good result after a draw on the opening day of the season. And then if you want to talk about the under-18s, they beat Liverpool as well. Away at Liverpool, 1-3-1.
Seems like it's all going well at United. And even the men's team got in the action on the opening day of the Premier League season, the opening night of the Premier League season. Manchester United with a 2-1 victory. Paul Pogba, very surprisingly, in the starting 11, scored that penalty.
Captain as well. Surprisingly, in the starting 11, captain, scored a penalty after 2 minutes. And then Mourinho went on to praise him effusively after the game as well. Do you think that had anything to do with the newspaper stories that were going around?
I mean, he was really good in the first sort of 20 minutes, faded really badly, and then really came on strong in the second half. And Luke Shaw, the reason that kind of even those games a while ago, we should mention it. Luke Shaw scored his first ever senior level goal, not just for United, but never scored at senior level ever at all.
Got an assist today as well.
Yeah,
I'm counting it.
Off to a flyer. Alexis Sanchez was absolutely hot garbage in that game. Fred looked pretty rattled a few times. Really tempestuous challenge, and he made one again today.
He's lucky he didn't connect with the one today because he was thigh high. He'd have got 2 red cards for that.
Yeah. Andreas Pereira did very well in holding midfield. Mourinho full of praise for him as well. After the game. And I thought it was a really impressive performance from Eric Bailly at the centre of defence.
Yes, this is against Leicester we're talking about here.
To be absolutely
because
clear.
It definitely wasn't in United's game against Brighton. Well, I mean, let's focus on Leicester to start with. It was a mixed bag from United for sure. So a win and everyone feels really good about the win. But the best stuff from United came in the first 2 minutes or so. And after that, it was a little bit of a, it kind of felt like running through a bit of treacle. It was hard work. And Leicester gave almost as good as they got. They created a few decent chances. Not loads, but had a few shots. A couple of very good saves from David De Gea. And late sort of, I suppose it's a consolation goal. After
Actually,
Luke Shaw's, I guess that's the winner, isn't it? From 5-6 minutes from time.
Featuring an Eric Bailly mistake, we should probably say.
So what's that? 3 in 2 games. Should we say he started the season, a little bit rusty?
I mean, that's unspeakably generous. But the first day of the season, and lots of people being like, suck it, haters. Jose Mourinho's great. All right, then. And then I guess we should talk about all the press stuff, because that's going to be a big theme in this part of the season. So after the game, Mourinho in his post-match interview with Sky said, we should be called head coaches nowadays. We recorded the show last time before the transfer window had closed. Ed, you mentioned a few times that it seemed very likely we were going to get Toby Alderweireld. Of course, no such signing materialised. We signed absolutely no one. And immediately afterwards, Woodward started intensely briefing the papers.
I know. We don't even have to pretend it's anyone else, do we? I mean, Woody calls press conference via phone or sometimes down the pub, and lets everyone know what he thinks about things. And clearly, what he thought about things was that the board, or Woodward, and Jose are miles apart on their transfer philosophy. Woodward has some kind of more long-term plan in mind, or that's generous interpretation, I'd say. This is his spin. And Jose just wanted expensive signings that weren't considered to be any better than the players that were at the club already. I mean, certainly if United had gone for Yerry Mina, as I think one United official apparently put it, they'd have been swapping their fifth best central defender for another fifth best central defender. Alderweireld, that wouldn't have been the case, but someone with a patchy injury record at 29, be 30 this season for 60 odd million, wasn't considered good value.
I mean, all the stuff that you would expect came out. So the source at United, that was clearly Ed Woodward, pointing out that Mourinho's had a vast amount to spend on specifically centre-backs, and there's now coming cap in hand for another massive spend on a centre-back, like you said, completely at odds. And as it said in the Daniel Taylor piece, Sanchez was an example of how far United are prepared to go in terms of spending money if it's a category A player, as they said. And that is definitely Woodward sort of countering the argument of Glazer parsimony, because I think it's abundantly clear that United's failure to invest in the late period of this transfer window was about the targets the manager wanted, not about the fact that they were in and of themselves £60 million players. It's not like they're going, oh no, we can't buy anyone for that. They definitely would.
I might have challenged that narrative because it's all very well talking the talk, isn't it? And Woodward's done that plenty of times in the past, boasting about how much money United have got and how big they'll do and how much they're going to shake up the transfer market and all this kind of nonsense, And to be fair to him, he hasn't really done that in the last couple of years. Perhaps he's learned a little bit. But very shortly afterwards came the briefing that United were about to appoint the club's first director of football. 130 odd years of a football club, and this will be the first one, and one I think that's a very sensible move and ought to bring United into the the 21st century, and very sensible, if only because it hopefully removes Woodward from being the director of football, which he basically is at the moment. So, but the timing of that. They were thinking about doing it. They could have made the move in the summer, of course, which might have been more sensible. But the timing of it coming just a few days after the transfer window closed, and with Mourinho being very snarky, that was very, very pointed, wasn't it? That was a get in your box Mourinho moment. And I think there's probably been another get in your box Mourinho moment during the week, because after being pretty rude about Pogba and Pogba's people briefing that he's probably off, would like to be off, and he's unhappy. Mourinho's been, doing as much as he possibly can to say, oh no, everything's fine, and we don't have any problems. We're best of friends. I couldn't be more happy with him, lying through his teeth when he said that there's no way he had called Pogba in to haul him over the coals over that comment about a player can't play his best if he's unhappy with his manager, sort of thing. So I think, and I wonder whether there's some of that has played into Mourinho's interview after the game today, in which, again, he was like, I can't talk about anything to do with individual players because I get criticised for it. It feels like a word has been had.
Yeah, the Pogba thing was weird because he came out and said, I can't say what I want to say or I'll get fined. And Mourinho fired off quite a good line. And there's been a couple of good Mourinho lines this week. That one where he said, the thing is, it's quite hard to get fined here. 2 years, I've only fined Anthony Martial, which was just like a kind of like a brilliant dig at Martial, but also a sort of, I don't know, I quite enjoyed that one. The other good Mourinho line, of course, was in response to Manchester City's documentary, which he said, I've been in this so much, they should give me a royalty, but I'll let them off giving me a royalty if they send me one of those "We Did It on Derby Day" t-shirts I saw in the tunnel when we beat them.
Bitchy.
Pretty good. Pretty good to be fair.
You and Tom have been watching this. I haven't seen it yet. I'm not sure I'm even going to because I kind of already know what it's going to be like. But since we're on the topic, let's segue a little bit. Tell us a little bit about this City documentary on Amazon. Can we even call it a documentary, or is it a puff piece?
Oh, no. I mean, it is a documentary. In the same way that the other All or Nothings have been a documentary. They are. So there were two series there's been a few different series this year which I've not watched, but the first two series were following the Arizona Cardinals and the Minnesota Vikings. The LA Rams. I don't know why I said Minnesota Vikings. So those first two series they embedded a film crew with these squads, and they were brilliant. They were incredibly engaging. John Hamm did the voiceover, but they weren't particularly critical. I think that's understandable in a way, because if you want to show the kind of a level of behind the scenes that you don't normally see as a fan, it is understandable that they would, want to do that with a positive slant rather than expose themselves to an embedded film crew for a year for a warts and all documentary. So it's friendly rather than a puff piece, I would say. I haven't finished it yet. Pep's a maniac. That's my main takeaway from it. It's like, that's the thing that isn't maybe quite what you expect. And there's a lot of stuff in the dressing room. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of the time, he seems to basically just be shouting about passion, which isn't sort of more what you'd expect from following Allardyce around for a year or whatever. But apparently Guardiola's a bit of a passion merchant, turns out, which is sort of vaguely entertaining. But no, I mean, obviously it shows him kind of pointing out flaws in other teams' defences and various things like that. But I can see why Mourinho would be annoyed, because he was definitely cast as the villain of the piece in one of the episodes. And United are parking the bus versus City's gorgeous fluent attack. I mean, it's fair to say there's at least an element of truth in that. But anyway, worth a watch, I'd say.
I watched half an hour of the Manchester City game against Huddersfield. They were 2-up by the time I turned it off. And of course, they won by miles. Their second goal, beautiful piece of improvisation by Aguero to turn three defenders. I mean, just one of the worst pub side moments of defending from Huddersfield. Three of them chasing the ball, and he flicks it behind his legs and turns all of them. But after the goal, and I can't actually tell you which commentator it was, because I don't know. Because I'm familiar with the voice, but couldn't work it out. Said, and down below me, Pep is pumping his fists, as if to say, "See, I told you this passing out from the back works." This was after a 75-yard hoof-up field from the goalkeeper. Well, I guess we could be generous and say he aimed it sort of in Aguero's direction. But
was it a banter? Was he doing a banter?
Made me laugh a little bit.
Was it deliberate? Was he making fun of the fact that it was a long ball from the keeper?
I don't think so. Okay. If so, it was really deeply dry in a way that my English ears are very attuned to. So
yeah,
we'll see. But anyway, it was kind of a funny moment. At some point I may dig into this cutting edge documentary. I mean, I have to say, my cynical brain says this is just a piece of puff to make us forget about the awful human rights record of the owning family. But, hey, that's just me being cynical, isn't it?
No, of course it's not. The whole existence of Manchester City's current project is that, and that's not. I'm not speaking as a United fan there. That's just the truth. I think there is a subtle difference between a friendly documentary and a puff piece. I don't think those are it's something that isn't antagonistic, but it's not like. It borders on puff piece on occasion. It has to be said, but there is some genuine insight in it, and you do see some of the people at their worst occasionally, which I don't think you do in something that's just a total puff piece.
All right.
Can you tell, by the way, listeners, that we are talking about anything that we can possibly think of to talk about, so we don't have to discuss the absolute mega shambles one of Manchester United's worst performances in the contemporary history of the club.
There's some good competition for that particular title, isn't there? I can't go there with it because actually in the second half it probably wasn't that. It wasn't a great performance by United by any means, but first half, absolute horror show, especially defensively. So let's dig into Brighton 3, United 2.
What an incredible polish on the scoreline that penalty gives it.
Well, and the first goal, an absolute freak. So let's... let's put it this way, Paul. You're all sunshine and roses normally. So tell me what out of that game we can take some heart from. Anything?
It ended. This is feeble, and it's the minimum. It's been well below the minimum standard, but the players tried till the end. There's no meaningful positives from this game. I said it was the worst performance, one of the worst performances in United history, and by history I mean since Alex Ferguson took over. And really, I just mean since we started winning the league, because there were some pretty bad stinkers in the early Fergie days. But Norwich at home in the second season at Christmas time under Van Gaal, Midtjylland away, where the European away travelling United fans, the absolute toppest of the top Reds, were singing about how terrible we were. Wolfsburg away, friend of the show, Cal Gildart, pointing that one out to me. That was pretty bad. That was Pal for Matter that day. But this was up there. Bailly and Lindelof, who'd looked pretty okay against Leicester, were a complete disgrace. But it doesn't end there. Paul Pogba, who I love so much and I think is a wonderful player and is kind of a reason to watch United on his own sometimes, was completely appalling in all the ways that everyone said. What are the worst bits for you, Ed? I could go on for ages and ages.
Yeah, well, the absolute worst bit is Lindelof and especially Bailly. Horrendous for the first goal. Bailly plays his man on side and then Lindelof gets the wrong side. Two awful mistakes there. Obviously, Bailly with the totally unnecessary tackle to give away the penalty.
And the second goal, the corner that was conceded.
Corner, Pogba with the weirdest half-assed attempt at clearance.
Fred. It was Fred. It was Fred that clipped it with the back of his heel and just into a Leicester player. Oh, maybe there was a Pogba clearance.
No, there's a Pogba
that.
Clearance before that. Yeah, he's
right,
sort of stretched, but just knocked it across his own goal. And then Fred, 6 players tight in there, and none of them can make a clearance. Horrendous, just horrendous. Horrendous mistakes for each of the goals.
So the first goal,
for sure, Mourinho can't be blamed for that, right? For individual mistakes, but he can definitely be blamed for the hot pile of steaming that was United's defensive organisation. That's his job. I'm getting all high pitched now, but that's how bad it is. He's making me go all squeaky. 2 years he's been manager, and that was defending like a pub side for the first 45 minutes.
Yeah, and he sort of said their heads went, which they did, but I wonder if the relentless negativity of their manager might have affected their ability to sustain confidence when things aren't going their way.
Well, it felt like it. It felt like it. And look, by no means am I absolving United's players of any responsibility. They were all awful. I can't think of a single player that sort of redeemed themselves. I mean, I suppose when Lingard and Rashford came on in the second half, neither of them were disgraced by their performances.
They were both rubbish, to be fair. They were genuinely both
Lingard kept
rubbish.
running, didn't he? He kept running.
Yeah.
He gave Brighton a problem because he was at least breaking between the lines. He really was. He gave the centre backs of Brighton, well, they had three at the back, didn't they? But he gave them maybe they didn't. No, they had two at the back. He gave them something to think about, and they weren't sure whether the can will go. And it was super easy for them to defend in the first half.
Fellaini is the one player that didn't disgrace himself, I would say. And you're in trouble when you're saying that. In fact, because I'm gearing up to have a massive pop at Mourinho again, and people get fed up when you do that, I'm going to first of all have a massive pop at each of the players individually. So De Gea, I guess he didn't do much wrong, but he didn't really do anything right either. Ashley Young was fine, but wasteful, and in that the hot mess of the first goal got kind of half sucked towards the ball. But then, to be fair to him, he would have expected his centre-back and the centre midfield to cover the space, but instead they both kind of half-heartedly looked to cover the space. And also Young was wasteful with the ball up front, but he's always going to do that, and he didn't do too much wrong. Eric Bailly was, every single goal had a massive negative hand in every single goal. The decision for the penalty is criminal. It's criminal defending to do that. Especially when United, if you go in at half-time at 2-1, I'm really thinking at this point, yeah, okay, been a bad start, but we can turn this round. But that was just ridiculous. Lindelof just doesn't look like he's going to make it at United. Who knows? We might be wrong. Luke Shaw was fine. Fine. Fred looked every inch the kind of player that is struggling to adapt to a new league in a team that isn't doing very well. Pereira was taken off at half-time because they needed to change the system, same as Mata, but neither of them impressed in the first half. Pogba was a total mess, playing for himself the whole time. Cruyff turns in his own half, surrounded by players. It's great when it works, and I wouldn't want him to stop ever trying it, but time and a place, and every single time trying to play the killer ball. Every time. And yeah, you've got to be courageous and you've got to be creative, but sometimes for the love of all that is good and holy, you have to give the ball to one of your teammates. Martial did nothing to offset the people that Mourinho's turned against him. And Lukaku, even though he scored, missed crucial chances. You mentioned Rashford and Lingard. Lingard's first touch was really wayward, and yet his movement was really good, as it always is, but he wasn't able to do anything with that. Rashford looked like he made poor choices. And, it's really at this point, we're just picking holes for the sake of it. But soup to nuts, top to tail, garbage from the actual footballers that play for United.
Yeah. For the first 20 minutes or so, Anthony Martial didn't look too bad. He was trying to run, wasn't he? He had one good shot. Yeah. Maybe I'm being generous with 20 minutes.
No, you're right.
Lukaku got a goal. Didn't do much else.
Except for miss a really presentable chance early on.
Yeah.
Strikers have to be allowed to miss chances.
So, are we writing off the season then? 2 games in?
No, we wrote it off in the season preview.
That's true. No, that's true. That's very true, actually. Yeah. It's going to have it is going. I don't want to overplay this. This is not Arsenal fan TV, but it will have a negative effect because there was so much negativity around the summer, and that wasn't just because of the transfer window. That came from Mourinho. The negativity, and him basically saying none of the players were good enough, and it was going to be a disaster of a season without another transfer. So maybe he's going to get what he wanted. Who knows? But I can't help but think that doesn't, that will feed into United players what looked like very fragile confidence, didn't it? just how much their heads really did go. I mean, these are all international players, some of them very, very big international players. It was complete shambles at times, and I can't help but think that there's a very, very deep-seated, underlying, and very big problem. But then again, look, this isn't Arsenal Fan TV, and after Arsenal lost to Chelsea, there were some questions on Arsenal Fan TV about how long they should give Emery. So, Paul, how long should we give Mourinho?
They are reasonable questions about how long Arsenal should give Emery, by the way, because it's far from a foregone conclusion that you just give Emery enough time and everything will turn out right. The Mourinho question is,
that was a joke. We don't want to talk Mourinho out after 2 games, do we?
Yeah, of course we do. Like, I wanted to talk Mourinho out after 0 games. I wanted to talk Mourinho out after, he said, how could Alexis Sanchez be happy playing with these kind of players? About our precious babies. Like, what are you doing, you stupid megalomaniac narcissist fool? The worst thing about Mourinho running the club isn't the style of play. I would be fine with the style of play if it was being effective. It's watching, because that team, the 11 that started that game, is perfectly capable of beating Brighton and beating Brighton very comfortably, playing nice football, believing in themselves. There's a couple of upgrades that you'd want to be sort of really talking about competing at the highest level, but it's utterly ridiculous to kind of go, oh, well, there's absolutely nothing Mourinho can do with this shower, but he's going to try and convince you every step of the way that there's nothing he could possibly do with this shower. And I have some sympathy for Mourinho's position of, I've told the board the players I want, and Ed Woodward is now acting as a de facto director of football, overriding what the manager wants, which... he's not in a position to do that, right?
No, that's right. And we did, actually, I think we let Woodward off softly in our discussion about this, because what the I mean, seriously, this is a former banker. What does he know? And what does that say about Manchester United, that Ed Woodward, the banker, Ed Woodward, with a capital W, is making those kind of decisions versus 2-time Champions League winner, 8 title winner, 8 league title winner across 4 leagues, José Mourinho. Anyway, that aside,
and like I said last week, Mourinho definitely makes it hard for a board to back him, because he the type of player he wants are so short-termist and also not marketable. So there's no upside in the way that there is with Alexis Sanchez or whatever from a board perspective. But how is Woodward the one that's deciding this? Even if we would agree with him, like, okay, well, actually, if we were randomly the directors of football of Man United, we might agree with the conclusion that Ed Woodward drew about some of Mourinho's signings, but he gave Mourinho the job and he hasn't sacked him. He's talked a big game in the press about how United are preparing for life after Mourinho, but he's given Mourinho the keys and refused to put any more petrol in it, saying, no, you've had enough petrol, sorry. It's no kind of way to run a football club, and of course it's going to end in disaster. Just as you can't talk about bringing in a director of football above Jose Mourinho's head. That's going to be ridiculous. I mean, clearly the board really are preparing for life after Mourinho, so we don't have to talk about Jose out, because he's out.
I think he's dead man walking. There's no way. I mean, hey, there may be an Alan Hansen moment in this. There's no way he's a manager under a director of football. Not after he's been the manager. I mean, he's, of course, worked under that system at Inter, where he fell out with the director of football, and at Real Madrid, where he got the director of football, Jorge Valdano, sacked, and then fell out with his replacement. It's just no way. He's gone. He's done. And I'm not sure when United will find one, but I think that's about the point when they start looking for a new manager.
Lots of stories this week about Zidane apparently wanting the job. Who knows where that's coming from and whether it's coming from...
maybe. I mean, it's a weird one. Tom said in our WhatsApp group that, for all Zidane's won, there's still an uncertainty about him. And there is as such, because, he took over what was a pretty good Real Madrid team and didn't manage to win the league with them, but did win 3 Champions Leagues in a row.
Yeah, which is quite some achievement. Obviously, like, I'd be buzzing if, like, the only thing that's missing for me in terms of Zidane being like my favourite footballer of all time is a connection with Man United. So if he comes and manages us and wins stuff, like, this is a dream come true. But
to be honest, I mean, I think he could have played centre back today and not done as badly.
It's true. I just like the idea of some journalist getting a phone call going, "Hello, this is Zinedine Zidane. I am very happy about the idea of managing Manchester United." And the journalist going, "Why is there an 0161 phone number on this? Are you already imagine? Great caller.
Yeah, all right. Have you got anything else to say about Brighton?
Yeah, just Paul Pogba, who I will defend to the hilt, and I will do that this season. It's coming. He was so terrible today. When they clipped to the half-times, I hadn't watched any of the build-up, and it clipped to half-time, and Graham Souness was in the studio. So both my hands went over my head. I was like, no! I didn't want Graham Souness to see this and believe that he's right in any way, shape or form about anything, because he isn't. But my goodness, Pogba was just...
Yeah, I thought he was
so
honest
bad.
after the game, though, Pogba.
What did he say?
He said the attitude is not what we want it to be. It showed on the pitch. Attitude, myself first, he said. The attitude was not good enough. We're going to keep trying.
I mean, they're going to have to, and there's going to be much better times than this season. Like, I mean, there just were. We won the first game, and it was a fairly feel-good win in a way. Luke Shaw scoring and all that, and Pogba playing, captaining, and scoring a penalty in the first few minutes. There was a lot of good feeling there, and it will get better than it was. But that first half is as bad a half of football as we have seen from United. That was as bad as Midtjylland away. That was as bad as Norwich at home, which are the 2 previous benchmarks. I remember sitting in the press conference after Norwich at home and Van Gaal saying, that was the one where he said, my philosophy is what has made me a good coach, or should I say what meant I used to be a good coach? And he wasn't like, he meant it. Like, he was really questioning everything about himself after that game. Mourinho, not so much after this one, but... I think
horrendous goals to give away, created hardly anything going forward. Three shots on target, one including the penalty, just 9 shots in total. City created 32 against Huddersfield. Just 5 passes in the final 20 yards. I mean, hardly even got into attacking positions, let alone creating chances.
And you can say till you're blue in the face that, it's not the manager's fault that Eric Bailly gives away a penalty in that circumstances, and I'll agree with you to the hilt, but it's the manager's fault that the defence is an incoherent pub team, and it's the manager's fault that there is no coherency to our attacking football whatsoever, and that is not unique to this game. This is not the first performance where our attackers looked devoid of ideas and like there's no plan, there's just quality players.
Yeah. Well,
so, yeah.
That's all pretty miserable. We promised after the season preview that we'd listen to our pods, just to make sure we don't repeat ourselves all season.
Yeah, we did.
It's going to be a long old season, I'll tell you.
You got the prediction right for the Leicester game,
Ed. I shall be thoroughly enjoying listening to this one on my way to work.
Ed, you got the prediction right for the Leicester game. I was so annoyed because we were 2-0 up and I was going to win, and then gave away a goal, and that made you win. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, you can't buy class like that.
The thing about the Mourinho out conversation is I don't actually think Mourinho should be sacked today. Don't think it matters. I think the club's in such a state that I think we structure in is what I'm advocating for, like some semblance of a plan. And the fact that Woodward is briefing about Mourinho behind his back and not backing him and not sacking him is as bad as anything that Mourinho's doing, 100%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, but that's shambles, isn't it? When the manager and the captain now hate each other, because I don't believe Mourinho's about them never having a problem and it's all okay. Just don't believe it. And the manager and the chairman or executive vice chairman, to give him his correct name, hate each other as well, you know?
Brilliant. At least the podcasters like each other, Ed?
Well, for now. Let's talk about VAR again, shall we?
I miss VAR, to be honest. During the season, a few times I've been like, shame we can't just do a little hand gesture, get a little VAR on the go. So, one other thing that we promised to do on this show that we failed to do in the season preview, and we failed to do in the last World Cup final show, even though you'd asked both times, and that is do some listener questions. So we must have a massive backlog. Shall we devote a bit of time to it?
Yeah, let's do it. And I will try to get through a good proportion of them.
All right,
although we had hundreds. We've got quite a few today, I have to say. You cheeky git. All right, I'm going to ask this one. Why not? Chris, C. Etchingham, 77, friend of the show. Honorary Scouser. Yeah, your boys, girls took one hell of a beating today, Chris. Let me tell you. Remember how funny it was watching Mourinho self-destruct at Chelsea in 15-16?
Yeah, it was funny, to be fair.
Oh, wow. Death Star for Cutie, at that James boy, asks, when Brexit happens and goes badly, how will Mourinho diehards make it about Pogba and Martial?
I really enjoy that because there is such a huge sort of philosophical overlap between Mourinho diehards and the people that say it's all going to be fine, you're all Ramonas.
Yeah, that's right. Thomas Willoughby at TPD Willow asks, will you sign my petition to have the Premier League season ended this week? Yeah, there's something underlying to this, isn't it? That it feels like it's going to be a hard season. It shouldn't do, because actually United came second, 81 points, comfortably second last season, have added 3 players. I'm being generous here. Fred, a £50 million midfielder, a £20 million right back, who is apparently one of the best young right backs in Europe, and Lee Grant, a solid number 3 keeper. Should be moving forward, but it feels negative, doesn't it?
United released their app on transfer deadline day, which is elite levels of terrible trolling. That is.
Oh dear. All right. Daniel Pierre at EDPC66 asks, how bad do you think it'll get before he goes? Well, Martial can't go until January, so it could get a lot worse than his performance against Brighton. You were asking about that, right?
Is the European window shut?
No. So I guess there's
go.
time for Pogba and De Gea to leave before the window shuts. I think the Spanish, the Italian window is shut, but the Spanish window is open till the end of the month.
I think the real answer to the question is that we fairly spectacularly miss out on Champions League football this season. I think that is technically as bad as it is going to get before he goes, because he'll definitely be sacked if that happens, and that is more than possible, given the potential for implosion that both we have as a team and Mourinho has.
Daniel Fieldhouse at Dan Fieldhouse says, hypothetically speaking, whose or what manager's system would this team actually work in? 2 questions there. I think one is who could turn this hot mess into something good. It's a bit unfair, and the other one is what kind of system would work for these players?
Well, I think we've definitely got the players to play a 4-3-3, but we've also got the players to play a pretty attacking 4-2-3-1 as well. I think we've actually got the players to play a ton of different systems, and I don't even think you need like a tactical genius or anything. You just need someone who's going to make these players feel good about playing football for Man United.
Right, and actually I think it's an awful lot about that. Yeah. It's good question from at Match of the Dan. And I think one point about Match of the Dan's question coming up is that how many of these questioners can't even bear to speak Mourinho's name? Quite a few. He's become the Scottish manager. As bad as today was, how much was it his fault?
So, like, that's what you were saying earlier about Martial, because it could be anyone that we're talking about here. How much was it his fault? I think David Cameron's got a lot to answer for, to be fair.
Oh, that's right.
Um,
He's never said sorry, has he?
I think the
Nor
answer is a
Mourinho.
lot. I think the answer is a lot, to be honest, because I think that it's not like the players should darn well be ashamed of themselves for being as unprofessional as they were, because they should, and I bet a lot of them are. But the imperfect storm of atmosphere created by the manager is like ideal. Like, if you want to grow something, you create the right environment for it, and the right environment has most certainly been created for what happened today.
Yeah. At Bud_Burns says, Portugal Zidane.
Oh. Well, that's a head or heart question.
That's an interesting.
Right there.
Oh, are you getting hard there, Paul? Thinking about it.
No, it's more like, oh, that's tricky. Because I guess in a way, head should say Poch, right? Because, all right, so no trophies, but everything but, and you would imagine the level of quality that he would be stepping into would mean trophies would come. But Zidane is Zidane, and it's a good job they don't let me make this decision, because otherwise it would be Eric Cantona as director of football and Zinedine Zidane as manager, and that's not going to work.
Yeah, but last time we had a big profile, World Cup winning French captain turn up, he turned out to be a massive, massive racist.
Listen, that's not going to be Zidane, though, is it?
I don't know.
For fairly obvious reason. Listen, he's called Laurent Blanc. The clue's in the name.
Simon Zambelli asked the question in the way that only Simon Zambelli can. That's at Zamo2049. Nothing's changed under Moo. Lacklustre performances, no urgency or ideas, players to blame for not putting a shift in. It all stems from him. He couldn't coach a rotting corpse to keep still. Hashtag. I'm missing the question there, Simon, but you definitely have a way with words.
That's one that, like, to be fair, wouldn't have got picked under my regime, but under the new era, it's absolute, like, complete gold dust.
Yeah, there's a few in that sort of. At Laconius, ask why. Dan O asks, seriously, what the Don Bugty asks, is Eric Bailly a waster man? I don't even understand this. Do you understand this, Paul? You're up with, pop culture.
Can you just check that there's no R in there, right? That says waste man, not waster man.
Yes, waste man.
Yeah, there you go. It's a waste man thing, Ed. It's a waste man thing. But was the question, is Eric Bailly a waste man?
Yeah.
No, Eric Bailly might still be a side man, but he's definitely not a waste man. Like, he might have to grow into his role as a leader, but no, he's not a waste man. He just had a waste man day. We've all had him. The thing is, the why question is genuinely fascinating, because it is really interesting to see how bad elite level athletes can be, and to really understand why. Because it's easy to go, okay, well, this is Mourinho and the negativity and da-da-da-da, and it is, I think, in part. But also there is something toxic in the kind of I mean, you would think that a strong United dressing room isn't going to allow a performance like this to happen no matter who the manager is.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it points to something pretty fundamentally wrong. Just like 2 years in, with the quality of players United have got, and I know if you read Twitter for any length of time, you wouldn't believe that. They shouldn't have been putting in a performance that bad, even after a bit of a disaster of a summer. So I think there's something bubbling underneath, which is pretty worrying. In fact, at Munro L says, just told my Arsenal supporting friend that having watched today's game, something feels very wrong at United. I'm not sure you need to tell an Arsenal supporting friend. They know when something's deeply wrong. They have done for at least 10 years or so. But,
I've felt for a long time that we are essentially morphing into Arsenal. That is essentially what's happening to United at the moment. We're increasingly just becoming Arsenal, a board that don't really care about success, and as long as the money's ticking in, they're happy. Players who can turn up on their day and be brilliant, but then can look absolutely atrocious. And Alexis Sanchez absolutely stinking out the joint.
God, I mean, but it's true. He was sharp in pre-season. It was against a bunch of teams where United had a week's extra training, to be fair, and some MLS teams. And he had a summer off.
MLS teams, Rooney, so beautiful.
Listen, I don't have any more good questions. I don't.
Oh, what, out of the literally hundreds we've got? You're saying that's it?
Yeah,
those are the only good ones. You're gonna have to dig. You can dig back in the archives while we talk about Wayne Rooney. Absolutely rolling back the years, playing at a level where he can still fully do the business. And if you're a United fan and did not have a tear in your eye as he haired it back using every ounce of energy left in his exhausted body, did a slide tackle, won the ball, and then pinged an absolute belter of a pass to the back post for DC United to score a winner in a game that they then won 3-2 because it was the last kick of the game, and watch him really completely unable to celebrate, and all his 2011 teammates bantering him off about it on Instagram was an absolute joy.
Yeah, absolute fraud he is, though, for not having done that for 4 years.
Oh,
hashtag agenda.
He tried his best.
Hashtag Rooney out. All right. At Delagol says, I was born and grew up in Stretford. I sat on my mum's shoulders and watched the 77 FA Cup winners on Chester Road. My first game was in 85. My question, what is the point, and this is like underlined, of Manchester United in 2018? Is there anything underlined redeemable about being a United fan?
It's such a great question, and it's one that I've been thinking about a lot, because I think I said this on the preview show, but if it wasn't for this podcast, there's absolutely no way I would have watched the game today. No way. I would have done something else instead.
Lost all your top Reds points if you didn't do that.
But that's it. I don't care about top red points. There's no point in them, that's for sure. And it is really difficult to understand because what do you support? So when you go to a game, you share in the collective, and there's point in that in and of itself. You see people you love, and that might be the only place you see them. It's an outlet for some sort of emotional whatever, but there's no community to the club anymore. That's a total artifice. The players don't care. The manager doesn't care. The board don't care. We're the only ones who care. And it's hard for us to care because none of them do. So the fundamental existential question about what the point of supporting an elite Premier League club is an extremely valid one, I think.
Yeah, and look, I'm honestly, that question we've talked about in various guises for 10 years.
Yeah.
And before we even started recording this podcast, that was a feeling that many people felt when the Glazers took over, because they foresaw this coming.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, because the Glazer catastrophe was always that the club would be crumbled under the weight of the debt, crushed under the weight of the debt, and we wouldn't be able to be successful because... or we would actually even completely stop existing. We'd be completely asset stripped. And if you look at the numbers, those were entirely reasonable fears. And it is only circumstance that meant that hasn't happened. But the soul of the club really is dead. Like, it is a soulless organisation. I don't believe in anything this club does, almost anything. There's little bits and people keep it alive. And, the United Foundation might be a PR exercise, but that's genuinely people empowered to make a huge difference in real people's lives. So even if it's for PR, still it does something really good, and really good people work for it. But it's really, really hard to care.
Yeah, I find myself compartmentalising. That's how I care. So, what happens between the time they kick off and the time the final whistle blows is completely different to everything the club is and stands for outside of it. Because outside of that, they're a vehicle for their Glazers to make cash and to sell, Vietnamese noodles.
So what do you do? what do you do when that's awful? And I don't mean that when United lose, because, who cares if United win or lose? I mean, what do you do when there's no joy to that and the players don't care?
Yeah, no, it's super hard. And, as someone who doesn't go to as many games as I used to do, which was a lot, and when you go to a lot of games, what happens then is the result doesn't really matter that much. Yeah, of course it does matter, but the fun you have with the people you're travelling to an away game with, or drinking with before and after the game is more important, isn't it? It's the community. That's why most people, I think, really find football exciting when they first get into it. When that happens, and I do wonder how much fun people are having, down in their £5 pints of Champions Lager. I don't sell that anymore, but you know what I mean. And what's left? I totally understand the point of at Delagol's question here. He follows it up with a long one, but basically it's how far would United have to fall before the Glazers left? Well, they won't. Right? It's this is not going to happen. United make enough cash that they're going to invest enough or sack enough managers and then reinvest again to ensure that the club finishes in the top 4 each year, because that's all the business model needs. Pretty competitive in the Champions League, pretty competitive in the Premier League, and sell loads and loads of shirt and sponsorships and noodles and tyres and regional telephone companies and whatever else it is.
Brilliant question and brilliant Twitter handle, Delagol.
When was the last time we went out with a clear game plan other than keeping shape and hoping for the best? About 6 years ago.
I mean, this is the really depressing thing about Mourinho is I'm sure I remember José Mourinho being really good at specific game plans for specific games. And
he still has pulled that off, to be fair.
Yeah, Chelsea at home in the back end of the first season when Rashford scored really early in that game. And under Herrera, man-marked Hazard. That was elite from Jose. I can't think of a second example. Oh, Ajax. Yeah, that was extremely effectively achieved.
Yeah, talking about specific game plans, I was thinking this actually and didn't mention it earlier. When Fellaini came on, exactly how United played after that was a bit weird. So at Sora Lapio says, so he brings Fellaini on to replace Martial. You'd expect United to start putting in crosses at this point, but instead they're still passing it to feet and into space, or at least attempting to. What was Jose thinking? Yeah, I was just imagining hoofball was coming, especially when Fellaini trotted out and then stood beside Romelu. I'm just thinking, they're just going to launch this, and they never did.
I mean, Pogba did a few times, but he launched it over them more or less every time.
It was a bit weird.
It was indeed.
Andrew Hardman at Hardman says, is it acceptable to remove Series Link on Match of the Day while Jose's manager?
Sure. You do what you like. Don't dance your own dance. Don't let anyone tell you that you have to watch football if you don't want to.
I still watch Match of the Day.
You're allowed to because you like it. Yeah. But if you didn't like it, you wouldn't have to.
I'm a football addict. I've watched quite a lot of football. While pretending to be a good dad this weekend. All right, well, that's it for questions. I'm glad we actually managed to get some in this week. It's a good 20 minutes of ranting there. So we've got a game coming up, haven't we? This is going to be an interesting one. Tottenham on a Monday night.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Like no sense of how that game's going to be whatsoever, because I don't think we can draw the conclusion from that Brighton game that that's what's going to be, or that's what all the games are going to be like. And as we've said, and as many Mourinho defenders have said, the one thing that he's got going for him is his record against the big sides. Last season, United did really well against the big sides. We lost to Tottenham away in the first season, but I think did we draw and win last season? Yeah. I don't know. We certainly beat them at home.
Yeah, beat them at home, draw away, I think it was.
They beat Newcastle on the first day of the season.
Beat Fulham. Beat Fulham on Saturday. Yeah. After Fulham had equalised Lucas Moura's opening goal. Fulham, who spent £100 million in the transfer window. Yeah, got some good players, but I'm going to guess it's going to take a little bit of time for them to bed in. They've lost twice. Spurs have won twice. And got off to an uncharacteristic good start to the season. Harry Kane even scoring in August, which
amazing.
Never happens.
He's done it for the first time in his professional career. I wonder how glad that Pochettino is that Moura scored, because I guess he's going to be really important to them this season.
Once a very good player, had a tough time at PSG. We'll see whether he is able to produce more this season. Kieran Trippier reminding me and producer Tom of the dancing around we did when watching him score for England. The shame that now brings to me, thinking about how many I was dancing around with England scoring.
That's what football can do. Lucas Moura, of course, is the £30 million for a teenager. The game's gone to the dogs, even though he'd literally spent £30 million on a teenager some 10 years earlier, because Fergie, for all his wonderful qualities, was also one to paint the truth as it served him best.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Old school form of lying, though, Fergie, generally exaggerating. Not barefaced Mourinho style lying that he did this week when everybody knows the opposite was true.
Are you telling me that Alex Ferguson never barefaced lied when everyone knew the opposite was true?
Well, he may have done a little bit of that.
Listen, rose-tinted spectacles. I don't even know if we talked about this, but of course everyone that listens to this has seen the video that United put out over the summer of Fergie, the kind of first public thing that he'd done, where he thanked all the staff at the hospital that had treated him, and he thanked all the people for messages support. So nice to see him, and really, really glad he's seems to be making a pretty good recovery from what happened. He said he'd be back at Old Trafford later this season, and I wouldn't worry about hurrying back, boss, because we know you listen. Timothy Fosu-Mensah plays for Fulham as well, so 100 million and an absolute diamond in their team. Spurs, will they pay a back three? They have been doing this season. Alderweireld's back in the side, which is interesting given Pochettino's habitual tendency to kind of really freeze out players who, anyone who wants to leave, where the door is, sort of a thing. But he started Alderweireld, Sanchez and Vertonghen alongside each other against Fulham.
Yeah, and he's going to give them a more solid base. He had a decent World Cup under Vareld. Didn't show any signs of the sort of hamstring problems that he's had. And the transfer window's done. It's gone. So he's at the club for at least another year, I'd imagine. I think he's got a clause in his contract that says he's 25 million next summer. It would be somewhat ironic if United picked him up at that point. But he's a very good player, and he's going to make Tottenham better for being in the team. Will they play back three? Well, yeah, you're right. They have been. So I would imagine so.
They didn't against Newcastle.
Yeah, they did against Fulham, and they've definitely got the players for it. What it tends to do is push Eriksen into perhaps not the role he has been playing, because he plays off the left an awful lot, and he perhaps played a little bit more centrally against Fulham. But it's a system that worked for them.
It's a very attacking lineup. They had Eriksen, Moura, Ali, and Kane all in the side. Even though in theory Eriksen was playing alongside Dyer, and you'd imagine that's not going to be the case. You'd imagine he'd want maybe Dembele in there, or even, the first game of the season it was Sissoko, but whether that's about World Cup fitness and all that sort of stuff. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do. Pochettino has really struggled against Mourinho. Not the game when Tuanzebe tried to man-mark Eriksen, but we'd given up on the league by that point, so that literally doesn't count. But generally speaking, at Old Trafford, Spurs have not been able to profit from United's banter era in the way that other big teams have been able to do. So are they due one? or
dear. They might be. They've got off to a good start to the season, haven't they?
They have. This game is going to be on the bank holiday at 8 o'clock at night on a Monday night in Manchester. Not a fun one for the Spurs fans to get back from. But it also means that the podcast is going to be at a weird time next week because it won't be our fault for once. It's because we have to record probably on the Tuesday, and then it'll be about when Tom can get it out by ahead of the trip to Burnley the following Sunday. So, United's still playing. The one small mercy about all this is that we're only playing one game a week still at the moment, which is something of a relief.
And then after Spurs, do we head into the international window? When does that happen? That happens.
Yeah, that is between Spurs and Burnley. Yeah. So we'll know by Burnley whether Paul Pogba is still a Man United player.
God, can you imagine?
Yeah, totally. Quite easy. It doesn't even take much thinking about to imagine.
I don't know. Would Mourinho melt down more if Pogba was sold, or if he wasn't sold? Interesting.
Well,
question.
Woodward is apparently, of course, really, really angry at Mourinho for isolating Pogba and Martial, who he sees as, the big Woodward success stories, which is kind of understandable, to be honest. It is like, he's handed the family jewels to Mourinho, and Mourinho has not polished them. He has, in fact, decided that the shiniest ones are the ones he likes least, and he really likes the Scott McTominay very average jewel. Instead.
Yeah, why aren't we talking about Scott McTominay, the manager's player of the year, frozen out?
See, it's unbelievable. Mourinho is fickle. Listen.
All right.
If you believe passionately that José Mourinho is absolutely the right man for the job, and this is completely ridiculous, all the criticism he's getting, could you please explain to me why? Drop it an email to paul@unitedrant.co.uk. I'll be really interested to hear cogent arguments in defence of José Mourinho for the reasons of being interested in the many ways I feel like I might be wrong about this.
All right. You sound like you're falling on your keyboard there, Paul.
Sorry about that. Making crackly noises over here by playing with stuff that's on this desk. All right, that'll do for the show, right?
That'll do. Predictions. How United going to get on against Spurs?
How do you predict this? How are we supposed to predict what's going to happen in this game? I can't predict the 11. I can't predict the style of play. I can't predict the result. I mean, you could easily imagine a kind of fight back and a kind of, oh my God, we disgraced ourselves away from home. Let's make Old Trafford a fortress this season. We haven't lost there yet. Let's really show another top team what we can do. That's not impossible.
I'm not asking you to, give me all the narratives. I'm asking you to give me a scoreline. That's how this works. But
the thing is, this is a really ridiculous game because I don't know. This is every week. What do you think the score's going to be? I don't know. I'm just going to say two numbers.
Yeah. Well, let me help you out. I think it's going to be 1-1. All
right, but can I hear some kind of narrative and explanation?
No, I just made it up.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, look, United have got to respond somehow, and that is totally empty, and I hate that kind of talk. But something's got to happen after that Brighton result. Otherwise, should United lose at Old Trafford, it's a crisis. It's a bona fide crisis. After that summer, a bit of a fortunate win against Leicester and then 2 defeats, it's full on.
All right. I'll go for a 2-1 team to the ones I like best. 2-1 win to the ones I like best. The red ones.
All right.
We've been reduced to.
Burnley away after that. Tricky.
Yeah. A 1-0 win to the claret and blue ones.
Oof. Yeah, we'll get a podcast out before
for sure.
September.
That's the plan. All right, thank you very much for listening. Sorry about all the misery, but I don't know what else to do because it was really bad in all sorts of really upsetting ways.
All positivity next week, right? See you there.
For sure. Bye. The Rantcast is brought to you by the good people who choose to back us at patreon.com/rantcast. We are and will remain a crowdfunded show because we don't want to try and sell you stuff. Because we're talking about the soul of the club. It would be really weird if we were talking about how the soul of the club's been sold out and then tried to get you to sign up for some gambling website. Don't do that unless you really want to, but still. Patreon.com/rantcast. If you pay us $5 plus VAT every month, you get what we say is 10 minutes, but it's effectively between 20 minutes and half an hour most weeks of bonus content. This week, we talked about the problem with European football.
10 games this season.
But doesn't this all mean that a European Super League, which we've been, I remember Shoot magazine articles about this. That's how long this has been a discussion. But at some point, if the same team wins, let's just say the Bundesliga and Serie A, where that's the worst example of it. And then France is a slightly different story because you only have one rich super club in that way. But even if in Serie A and the Bundesliga, every season the same team wins the league, they're probably both going to do 10 in a row.
I can see where you're going with this. And every time that's come up, they've managed to find a way of restructuring the finances or the competition structure in Europe, in the Champions League, to stop that happening.
Yeah.
And a few of the big clubs may be thinking about it and may talk about that, but they've got to all know that it's the death of domestic football if they do that. Basically creating an NFL of Europe.
Yeah.
It's not good for football anywhere if that happens. But of course, with many of these clubs, not Bayern or Real or Barcelona, but many, the motivation is money. With Real and Barcelona, the motivation is money insofar as it's there to ensure they're competitive.
Yeah.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.